Hello, hello. Hope you're having a lovely day today. I wanted to talk about the less common signs of autism in my experience, things that I didn't realize could be attributed to autism, and things that I didn't even realize were autistic. I just thought they were perhaps odd things specific to me. To be honest, I don't know what they were. People do experience these things as autistic people, but they are perhaps less perceived, less noticed, or just less common. So let's get started. First is making plans. I am really, really good at making plans, but I have several documents that are pages and pages long. They outline every single step to take to reach a goal that I would like to reach. It's very in depth. There's a plan B, there's a plan B for the plan B, there's contingencies. What if this goes wrong? We can do this instead. There's extra plans for the extra plans. They're just very in-depth plans, every step along the way for things I want to achieve. But there is another less common sign which makes it very difficult for me to actually carry that out, and that is executive function. I'm very great at writing out all of these plans, and they're very in-depth, but starting these plans feels like it's almost impossible. Just taking that first step to actually begin the process feels like an impossibility sometimes, and that falls into the area of executive function issues. It feels very silly to me, and it's very annoying because I have an entire plan that I've spent so long on, and it's everything I need. It's everything I need for the goal that I want to achieve. And it's just getting started. It's just that first push. I really struggle. It almost feels impossible at times. Next is waiting mode. This one blew my mind perhaps the most. And I spoke about it a little bit in a previous video, but I didn't know that this was a thing until I got my diagnosis and I started looking at autistic content. If I have an appointment at 3 p.m. today, I cannot do anything before that appointment. Everyone else will continue with their day, they will continue with their work, their jobs. They'll just continue like normal until that time, and then they go to their appointment. But I feel incapacitated almost. I cannot do anything with my day. It's like my brain is just laser focused on this appointment that I have, and I can't do anything. I even have difficulty with breakfast and just general maintenance things for my health. I just kind of sit here in some sort of weird daze, not doing anything and unable to do anything. I know this appointment's coming, it's all I can focus on, I cannot do anything else, and it kind of ruins my day. And the time between my knowledge of the appointment and the appointment is just a mess. I can't do anything, I can't achieve anything. And now I know that it is actually a thing that autistic people experience, and it's called waiting mode. Next is inconsistent accent. This one was also very interesting, and it's one that I only read about recently, but it definitely applies to me. My accent is odd because I don't sound how other people sound where I'm from, if that made sense. Where I grew up, the people sound very different. My accent is even inconsistent because I still have that thing where I don't pronounce all of the T's, like, the classic British bottle of water. I would say that. But sometimes I do pronounce the T's. Sometimes I'll say British, or sometimes I'll say water instead of water. So even my own accent is kind of inconsistent. And I suppose that falls under the umbrella of difference in prosody and language use. And I think they say atypical expressions. I suppose it all sort of falls under that umbrella term. So having an odd or inconsistent accent is definitely a less common sign, and one that I was unaware of. Slow processing. This one definitely applies to me, and it's something I've struggled with a lot, and I'm sure that people have noticed, but the reaction that I get is just being interrupted or them being annoyed. Someone will say something to me that's not a typical question, and it's something I have to think about. I just sort of freeze, and I'll be thinking for a while, but because I haven't answered in 2 or 3 seconds, the other person gets very impatient and they start to interrupt and they start saying, oh, maybe you think this, maybe you think that. They sort of try to answer the question for me because I'm taking so long to process. And it also makes it very difficult in social settings because people want answers and people want answers now and they want to speak and people interrupt each other all the time. It's just this constant, there must be noise of some sort. But I am processing and I am listening and I've understood what's been said. It just takes me a while to reach the conclusion that I want to. I really want to think my answer out because perhaps it's caught me off guard, or it's just something that requires me to have a bit more thought. But social expectations and social impatience demands that I answer right now, otherwise someone else has to answer for me. Next is atypical humour. Again, this was something I was unaware of, and also seems to be a less common autistic trait from what I've read and what I've seen. But my humour is, I think this is the thing that stands out to people as weird the most about me. And when they encounter me and when they sort of get to know me, I can't even really explain my humour. I like wordplay a lot, which is part of my humour, but my actual humour is more like, if it's absurd or surreal, then I find it really funny. But it seems to be just a bit too weird for people. People recognize this, and if I laugh at something that's absurd or surreal, it's almost like there's this sphere of acceptability of, okay, that's a bit weird, but I can see why that's funny. And I just seem to be outside of that sphere, and it sort of makes people think I'm weird, or it makes them uncomfortable. Which sucks, because I don't want to make them feel that way, and I don't mean to. I just have quite specific atypical humour. Being good at something useless. I've only seen this mentioned a few times, but this definitely applies to me as well. So I've played video games my whole life, and I'm very, very good at some video games. I was incredibly good. I don't want to be too specific because it's quite personal. I don't want to release information or dox myself or anything like that. But I was very good at some competitive games in the past, to the point where I was one of the best players on the continent, probably. And it just ends up being useless, you know? If you're good at video games, nothing happens. Well, at least back then, nothing happened. Now people have sponsorships and all sorts of stuff. But back then, it was just like, oh, you're good at that game. Round of applause, I guess. Good job. Nothing happened. I didn't get any financial gain from it, or any stability, or any improvement in my life. It just ended up being kind of useless. Atypical memory. I just remember very odd things that kind of also end up being useless. Whereas I could remember things that would be helpful for me, or things that other people remember, but I just seem to have quite a selective or atypical memory. Back in the day, a long time ago, you needed a memory card to save your games, and I didn't always have a memory card, but the games back then would it would sort of generate a code for you that you can write down. But I didn't write those things down. For some reason, I just found it easier to remember them. So I had these codes to remember for the progress that I made because I couldn't save my games. Right, so I'm 37 years old now. Some of these codes are from when I was like 4 or 5 years old, like more than 30 years ago, and I still remember them to this day. And it's like a completely pointless thing to remember, and it serves me no good. It's really silly and it does nothing for me. But I just remember these very odd things, like strings of information, or I guess it's more typical, but dates, that sort of thing. They just really stick in my mind, and they're very vivid, clear memories and things that I can memorize. But they're just useless. They're not helpful for anyone. They're not even really helpful for me. Do you have any rare traits of autism? Or do you have less common behaviors that appear for you? Please let me know in the comments. I would really like to know. It's a very interesting thing for me, because ASD is so varied and it's such a rich and different spectrum for everyone. I would just really like to hear about your experiences. So please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff if you enjoyed the video. If you didn't, please comment and tell me how I can improve. I always want to improve my content. That would be very nice of you and very helpful. Thank you very much for watching. I super appreciate all of you. And I will see you for the next video. Have a lovely day. Bye bye.